5, 4, 3, 2,
1. Let's do this.
This is Pro Wrestling UnCut. With your host, Cole Dawson.
Biggest icon in wrestling.
Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
Let's do this.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Pro Wrestling UnCut. I am your host, Cole Dawson. And with me, as always, is our lovely, wonderful director, DjBBQ. How you doing today, sir?
I am doing great. I'm doing excellent. I practicing my social distancing and went to a concert. Fozzy, I see that they're getting a lot of heat. No pun intended, but it's a hot one out there, and it's a hot one on social media. But apparently they weren't allowed to have a concert, even if they followed the guidelines and had 30% occupancy. But it was fun. It was my son's first concert, and I had a blast. I probably should look at the camera here, even though I'm trying to look at our two friends here on there. But Cole can introduce our very special guest. He knows him a lot more than I do, so go ahead, Cole.
Well, today with us since we are doing episode 2 of the Fantasy Wrestling Draft, I, your host, am 1-0, undefeated. I am the reigning champion. But today we have with us a very special guest, my birthday buddy and my cousin, and also a local Southern California radio host for years and years, because he's an old man. With us today, we have Jeremy James. How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing good, cuz. How are you, man?
Oh, we're hanging in there. Now, I do have a follow-up. I do have a follow-up question for Charles over here, because he lives in South Dakota, and I know nobody willingly goes to South Dakota. So where did you have to go to see this concert?
Well, actually, no.
Did you have to go to Omaha, like a real state
No,
city?
we went to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So we went to Sioux Falls City.
Sioux Falls City. The one city.
A lot of the viewers.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah. It's Eugene country, because Mr. Eugene lives in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The best little city in the States. Trying to pull my Mick Foley, but I don't know if it's working that well. But apparently people do go to South Dakota, because on the West River, where the crazy sons of guns are, we have probably over 300,000 people expected to go to Sturgis. That officially started.
I did read about that. I read about it that the natives are shutting down the road so that people can't get to Sturgis.
Yeah, it's been a hotbed issue because they first time 6 months, 5 months, 6 months. Fozzy's ever toured with his other bands and stuff, and other people who haven't done anything around here. We've opened it up, and they've had regulations. Anybody can only be like a certain percentage, but that's not the same in whatever state it is. But yeah, it's interesting. We're not dealing with the stuff that you guys have to deal with in SoCal. For that's for sure.
Yes. Your restrictions are lighter.
Thin. Yeah, our population's a little thin around here in the old Dakotas. Hey, home of Shayna Baszler, home of Brock Lesnar and Webster. I don't care if they keep saying he's from Canada or Minnesota, but he is from South Dakota and Webster. And that town, it literally is not a town. It's like a village. It's small. You blink and you'll be through Main Street and through traffic real quick. So you guys are going to have to compete against each other for a little bit of the championship title that Cole has not let us down and not forget that he is the champion.
Correct. I am the champion, and I promise I will not.
Already.
Yes. And I haven't even mentioned that my sister is Candice LeRae yet. So.
Oh yeah, you're breaking your record here.
I gotta stay on gimmick. Gotta stay in character.
I guess I should throw out there that Candice LeRae is my cousin.
Yeah.
Hey.
This tournament smells a little fishy to me. I mean, you got family members here.
Oh, stag of the deck. But so today we are going to be drafting from the HulkaMania era, starting in 1985. We're going to go from 1985 leading up to 1989. And of course, all bets are off. Everyone can do whatever they want. Managers, women wrestlers, tag teams, Japan, Canada. You can go Stampede, CMLL, whatever your heart desires to put together the best wrestling roster you could possibly come up with to book an 8-match card. And the best 8-match card will be decided by 3 surprise judges. And I'm going to win, probably. Since I get to pick the judges.
Yeah.
So, we had a lot of fun doing
about how to get the judges. So I apologize to the listeners and the viewers if they will see this on YouTube.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to pull something special off, and but I got to get some responses here. But we'll see what happens. We might end up with Justin and DjBBQ judging again.
I am a very and I know if I say this, I'm setting myself up for one of Cole's jokes, but I'm a very special guest. I think I pride myself being able to judge great competition and great value to this contest. So I'd be honored to be a judge again. Apparently, I didn't get the memo to be a judge for this one, but
well, if my third phone call doesn't come through, guess what, bud?
Yes. I don't know. Is that a bad thing? I either cheer. Yeah, I either cheer for myself, or I'm going against the fact that we really need a big special guest.
So, well, either way, I think special guests will work out at some point down the road. But I think that's enough filibustering on our stuff. Why don't you go ahead? We will start with the official Pro Wrestling Uncut coin flip. And as always, I will let our guest decide heads or tails.
This is an official, customized quarter of the United States Mint. Okay.
Hold it in the air.
Call it in the air.
Heads.
And heads it is.
Hey.
Ha ha, we got to swerve. I'm going to call it heads.
So I will give you your druthers. Do you want the first pick, or do you want to pick twice?
Ooh, that's a...
You know what? I'm actually going to pick twice.
So I get first pick this time?
Yeah, I kind of, since I've not done this before, I want to see how you start things out and where I'm going to go from there.
All right, he already has a big go as it is. You don't have to give him.
Well, last time, since we did the Attitude Era, Ron was a dick and had first pick and took Bret Hart, who would be my first pick in any era except for the 1985 to 1989 era, because, I mean, there's no arguing. There's really no debate as who the top dog on the planet is in 1985 through 1989, and I guess I have to go with the immortal Hulk Hogan, first pick.
I'm surprised. I am actually surprised that you went this way out.
Well, I mean, there's really only one other option, and I don't want to get into it because I don't want to, spoil my chances. But I mean, really, you could go. There's one other top dog, and then there's the guy who's the biggest draw of all the 70s. So I mean, there's a lot of top guys here. So this draft I feel is a little deeper at the top than the Attitude Era. So, but I will turn the mic over to Jeremy and get your 2 picks.
I got to say, I am also a little surprised with the Hogan pick, but your analysis gave me an idea of where your head is going to be. Being the old guy here who grew up with this, my list is total nostalgia. Okay. And you're already smarting it up over there, talking about, draws from the 70s. So I think I'm going to get everybody I want and be very happy because our list is so good. So I'm going to go with my very first pick. And I don't know if he is in your top 5 or not, Cole, but he was just the man in that era to me, right after Hulk Hogan. And that's going to be the Macho Man, Randy Savage, my number 1 pick.
That's a fantastic pick.
Yeah.
And you get one more.
You get one more. All right. This one is going to be the only one that's probably going to be a surprise to you, because it isn't pure nostalgia. It is, but this is like I knew Cole would want this guy. and I'm taking him early just because I know Cole wants this guy. My number 2 pick is the Great Muda.
Oh, goodness. Coming out strong.
Great Muda.
Oh, yeah. He was definitely on my list. That is definitely, he ended up being one of my picks in our last draft for the Attitude Era. It's a little later on in life for Muda, but it worked out well. Now I get 2 picks, and that's fantastic because you left all the tippy top guys of the 80s and the 70s for me. Boy, and when we're talking
quality,
this era,
not quantity.
yes,
Cole.
yeah. When
Quality,
we're talking about this era, the biggest match in the history of the professional wrestling business, both on pay-per-view and on TV, the largest TV audience in the history of professional wrestling was Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. So my second pick is going to be Andre the Giant.
Wow.
And when you're talking about the 80s, it really only comes down to 2 names outside of Andre. You had the WWF champion, Hulk Hogan, the top guy in the world. And then you had the other champion, the guy that was down south, that guy, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. So that's going to be my third pick. So I'm feeling pretty good about drawing power and work rate with Hogan, Andre, and Flair. And now turn it back over to Jeremy.
And I see what also I did completely different and wrong is I was thinking true, like, matchups as far as like, you know what, this dude is a better wrestler than this dude. And that would be a great match, and they would work it out. So but now I'm like, now I'm going to have to redo my top 40 here a little bit. And,
well, that's all right. I could filibuster. Yeah, I could filibuster for you a little bit. So when Ron and I drafted the last go around, it was fun. Ron kind of went the opposite of what I thought he would do as well. And he picked a lot of interesting matchups. So he was picking that way, things that he would have liked to see. I think he ended up with a main event of Bret Hart versus Rob Van Dam, to make Rob Van Dam a star. That was his idea, right? And I went kind of the WCW route where I picked a bunch of top talent on the top of my card. And then as we got deeper in the draft, I went with a lot of work rate guys like Misawa, and I got, Stan Hansen and Tajiri and Jerry Lynn and that kind of stuff. So I had that old WCW idea where the bottom half of my card, the front half was all action all the time. And then as we got towards the back half, I had all the big heavy hitters, the main eventers, so I could please everybody. So, but like it's going to come down to judges' perspective on this, and everyone has a different idea about what professional wrestling is, which is the beauty of this kind of thing. So hopefully I filibustered long enough for you to rethink your strategy.
Yeah, some of my guys around at the different tiers now, so I think I got an idea of what I want to do next. Again, it's a lot of this still is me thinking back to the matches I love, the guys I enjoyed watching, who I get fired up for when I was a kid, because I was still a little believer in 1985.
Oh, for sure.
These guys were the ultimate to me, and these fights were real, and I was in it. But one of the guys that I absolutely loved, one of the best heels of all time, and someone I had to have on my team, Mr. Roddy Piper. I'm going to take him.
Rod.
Because, he was so fun. No matter who he was in the ring with, who he was on the mic with, the guy was pure entertainment, and I absolutely loved watching him as a kid. Even I loved hating him when I was younger. He was just one of the best heels ever to just get so pissed at all the time.
Yeah, you were happy when he kicked Cyndi Lauper in her head.
Yes, absolutely. All right, now the next one I got is based more not on in-ring skill, but the drawing power, the fan power, and I believe this one makes it in, because when we started off, you said 85 and 89. I thought we were going into 90. He might be on the cusp, and you can let me know what you think when I pick the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh yeah, Ultimate Warrior is definitely on the list. I do believe he made his debut. Was it WrestleMania 5? I do believe. Because, yeah, he had the main event at 6. So, yeah, he beat Honky Tonk Man at WrestleMania 5. So he definitely makes the cut. So you're going Ultimate Warrior.
Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, there's no arguing there, because, the thing is, as we've grown up as wrestling fans, we may have changed our opinions on what makes a good professional wrestler. But even to this day, like, you just watch the intensity of the Ultimate Warrior, you watch one of his promos, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. He's just spouting gibberish, but something about it all worked, and it was great. And then the sprinting to the ring and everything. Yeah, I think Warrior fits here a lot better than he did in our Attitude Era draft.
Yeah.
From what I found out, the Ultimate Warrior debuted in 1987.
Oh.
Yeah, him and Sting and all that. So, yeah, he's definitely here. Although 87 might have been his WWF debut even. So,
I think that might be what it was, yes.
Yeah, a guy that we are familiar with, that Jeremy and I both know, Bill Anderson, was the guy that trained the Ultimate Warrior and had a lot to do with my training in the wrestling business as well. And so I got to hear some, behind the scenes, backstory. And I think Warrior is a little bit better human than maybe some of the stories out there in the world. And I'm still a big fan, even though I've tend to lean more towards guys like Great Muta these days. So
yeah, as a kid in that era, he was just, to use an overturn or used a lot, electrifying. He truly was.
Oh yeah.
The music hit, he started sprinting to that ring, and kids went nuts.
Yeah, well, even still, like when he was in the Hall of Fame and he came out for the promo on Raw, the crowd just erupted. And it's like it's one of those things. It's a throwback because you don't see crowd reactions like that today. Like the guys are not as big as stars today as guys like Warrior, and even all us grown men that hate guys like Roman Reigns, who's 10 times the wrestler that Warrior was, right? Like Roman Reigns and John Cena, they're just not as big as stars as the Ultimate Warrior seemed like. So I fully support this pick, and he would have definitely been on my list here.
The only one compared to that response is Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then the Blasted Break had come out. That was the only way that you could compare a pop to anybody.
Yeah. Well, the Road Warriors back in this time, I probably shouldn't talk about them. We might be giving away some strategies at some point. But the Road Warriors they invented that pop where people just lost their minds.
From Chicago, Illinois.
Everything, yeah. But we're not ready to go there yet. It is my turn.
We'll go there.
Yeah. We're not ready for that yet. But see, now this is where I have to start getting into my heart versus my head. And even if I go with my heart here, it's really not going to be a bad pick. So I'm going to go with, for my money, one of the greatest world's heavyweight champions of all time. One of the most believable characters in the history of the business. I'm going with the man, Harley Race.
Nice.
And now I'm looking at my list, and I need a little bit of work rate. I need something a little more exciting, because Flair's exciting. He can be, depending on who he's in the ring with, and we might have a pretty damn good opponent for him right now. I'm going with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Ricky Steamboat for your next pick, huh?
I know there's still some big names on the list, but I need some work rate. I need a guy who can steal the show.
Okay, so as we get into my next picks, I need to ask you, are these cards that we're putting together, is it my guys versus your guys, or my guys, I'm putting the card together based on who I draft?
Yes, you're going to put your own wrestling card. Like, we're each going to book our own pay-per-view with our rosters, and we're going to decide who's got the better roster, whose show is better. So you're booking your own matchups. So that helps. Luckily we haven't got too far. Luckily we haven't got too far into this, and right now your roster is fantastic. So, at this point, we need to start thinking about who are these guys going to wrestle and all that good stuff.
Well, yeah, that makes a big difference then, because now I'm looking at matches I can put together that I've wanted to see, and so I'm going to put one of those together right now, actually. It is my pick, right?
Yes, sir. You got two.
Yes, it is.
All right, I got two. All right, well, you know what? I'm going to go right out the bat with another painted up face. And I'm going to take Sting.
Oh.
The early WCW era with the bright white, bleach blonde, spiky hair and everything. Dude with attitude, that kind of era, that crazy stuff.
Perfect.
From your guys' neck of the woods.
Yeah, yes, sir.
From Venice Beach. That what they say? Venice Beach, yeah.
Yeah, Venice
Yeah, I
Beach,
believe it's-
California.
Well, Rick Bassman found Warrior and Sting in the Gold's Gym down here and said, "Hey, you wanna wrestle?"
Well, then that was when he was called the Dingo Warrior. Back then, when he debuted.
Correct.
I hope you didn't ask him like that, though. You don't look at the two guys working out like, "Hey, you guys want to wrestle?" I mean, I hope he was a little more professul and less
Hey
creepy.
kid. Yeah, hey kids, want to wrestle? Yeah.
Hey, you want to go wrestle there, boys?
You guys are beefy. You want to wrestle it out?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then let's see. I'm going to go next with another one of my favorite all-time heels. I don't even know if this guy was an actual face at any time in his career. Had some beautiful matches with the likes of the Ultimate Warrior and Ricky Steamboat. And I'm going to talk about Ravishing Rick Rude.
Oh, that one hurts. That one hurts a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Does that sting a little?
Yes, your pick stung this last round. Yeah, Rick Rude was, even when I was a kid, when I was 8, 9 years old watching wrestling, Ravishing Rick Rude was one of my absolute favorites, and still to this day is one of my absolute favorites. And you are correct, him and Warrior, the cage match they had was fantastic. The match where Rick Rude won the Intercontinental title off the Warrior with help from the Weasel out there. Yeah, man. Ravishing Rick Rude is one of my all-time favorites and one of those guys that I think doesn't get credit he deserves because he didn't win the WWF title. He was a WCW champion at one point, or well, I guess technically he was the NWA champion at one point. And that's when NWA pretends like their title still exists and that Rick Rude and Flair didn't unite those titles 20 years ago or 30 years ago at this point now. So one of those moments in history they pretend didn't happen, but we all saw it and know that the real NWA champion is whoever the WWE champion is now. So yeah, it's my turn, and I can't. Oh, at this point, I just can't pass him up anymore. Because if we're talking about top draws, top promos, entertainment, the driving the crowd crazy in the 80s, you can't go and not talk about the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. He definitely needs to be on my card at this point because I just can't keep passing him up. My goodness, into the 6th round before someone takes Dusty Rhodes in the 80s. Oh, but now it gets a little tough. Now I think most of the tippy top guys are gone. And I'm going to pick this one with my heart. I'm going to go off grid a little bit. Maybe somebody that's not on everybody's wrestling purview, but as a student of the game, I cannot watch enough Nick Bockwinkel in my life. He's one of the definitely overlooked guys whenever it comes down to guys talking about the greatest of all time and the top heels in the history of the business and the best wrestlers in the history of the business. So and one time the first time I met Shawn Michaels, we were down at the wrestling school here in San Bernardino, and one of the referees that came from there, Marty Elias, was a WWE ref at the time, and they were in town. I believe WrestleMania was here that year in LA area, or it was a pay-per-view. I don't remember which one it was, but he brought Shawn down to the school. My sister woke me up butthole early on a Saturday and said, "Hey, get dressed. You got to come to the school with me." And so I knew it was either Shawn or Chris Jericho that were coming down, and we're there, and there's 100 kids, so this isn't even really a wrestling training class because you don't even have enough. I mean, the ring is just surrounded. And then after Candace wrestled a match, Shawn walks down to the ring, interrupts everyone to say, "Hey, show me that move you did again." And she showed him. He's like, "That's it. I'm stealing it. It's great." And so he put her over the first time he ever met her, which was awesome. And then after that was over, Shawn started talking to us just about wrestling in general, and the name he dropped was Nick Bockwinkel, and I just kind of saw the little smirk on his face, like, you kids are all 20, you have no idea who the fuck Nick Bockwinkel is, but that's my point of reference for greatness. So if it's good enough for Shawn, it's good enough for me. Nick Bockwinkel.
It brings up the question, though, does Shawn remember that? Has that
Shawn
ever been brought up?
It had been brought up, but Shawn doesn't remember much of anything, so... So those are my two picks, Dusty Rhodes and Nick Bockwinkel.
Nice.
All right. I got to say, Nick Bockwinkel was not on my list, but Dusty Rhodes definitely was.
That's a surprise one for me, being an outsider on here. I'm surprised you picked. I'm not saying that Nick Bockwinkel isn't a good pick or a great pick. I'm just surprised.
Yeah, he was not somebody. He was one of those guys I knew about growing up, but I never saw much Nick Bockwinkel. I watched WWF, WC, or NWA, that kind of. So I got AWA a little bit here and there, but I never got to really see much Nick Bockwinkel. So
yeah, he's definitely,
I know he's a legend, but that's why he didn't make mine.
Yeah, he's definitely worth going on the network and finding, especially the stuff he did with Kurt Hennig back in the 80s, and then he had a great feud with Jerry Lawler when they were trying to do all the super shows to compete with Survivor Series, when they had all that mess where Vince tried to block the NWA pay-per-view and put the Survivor Series out there and all that. Nick Bockwinkel was feuding with Jerry Lawler, and that was their big selling point. So
nice. Okay, well, I am going to take a little bit of a turn here, and knowing now what I know about how I'm supposed to set up these matches I want to see. A match I always, during this time, wanted to see as a kid, all these years, and when they finally did it, it just wasn't the same because the teams were same. I'm going to pick these two teams back to back specifically to make this match. When these two teams are at the height of their career, my first pick is going to be the Road Warriors. So I will take Hawk and Animal. And right after them, it might be pretty obvious at this point, I'm taking Demolition, Axe, and Smash.
Nice. That is definitely an 80s kid pick right there.
That 80s kid dream match. I wanted Hogan and Flair when I was a kid, and I wanted Road Warriors and Demolition. I had to see it, and like I said, the teams just weren't the same. However many years later, when they finally
and the teams weren't the same, and I don't feel like Vince really got the Road Warriors. I just don't feel like he really got the gimmick and really understood that you needed to let them be badass baby faces and just kill everybody. And it was, it's kind of hard when the Demolition were so over and popular. You have these two babyface teams, like, how's it going to work? And oh man, that's in and of itself is a semi-main event type match right there, and that's going to send me scrambling because now I have to decide if I want to counter with tag teams, or I just saw someone on my list that I am ashamed of myself that I've gotten this far down and I haven't picked him, and I can't let him get back to you. So I might have to take a flyer on a tag team and hope I get another one. But for my money, whenever I talk about the 5 most well-rounded, greatest performers in the history of professional wrestling, this guy always makes my list of top 5. And I am going with Terry Funk. Yes, Terry Funk. And Funk was great in every decade he wrestled in with every opponent. He, I don't know if it's a compliment or an insult, but he fashioned hardcore extreme wrestling. He's the one who popularized it and made it successful in the States. So, going from a tag team specialist and all the feuds with his brother and the Briscoes in the 70s and early 80s to being NWA champion, to being old and or middle-aged and crazy and setting the world on fire with ECW. Terry Funk is just an absolute legend, and I'm ashamed of myself. But I still got him, so it's all good. And then this is where things get tough, because I do need a tag team at this point. And I think that's really the last of the top singles guys.
So you don't feel so embarrassed. First time I ever saw Terry Funk was on Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone.
That's your frame of reference.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, I didn't know anything about Terry Funk until after that. I found out that he was in wrestling, and then I did my research as much as you could back in the late 80s, early 90s, and try to see what videos you could watch with him, because we didn't have YouTube back then. But yeah, that I felt a little embarrassed to tell people, like, that was the first time I ever seen him was in a movie instead of actually seeing him in a ring or seeing a video of him in the ring. Yeah, people laugh at me quite a bit for that. They're like, oh, so you think he's just a movie star? I was like, well, apparently I did, because it wasn't like you could Google it or ask Jeeves. So
all right.
Then he did Roadhouse, so he solidified.
Oh yeah, he did
Roadhouse,
didn't he? Yeah,
Roadhouse.
Hey, don't be ashamed though. I mean, Thunder Lips is what turned me on to Hulk Hogan. Rocky.
Old Thunder Lips, like this, old Thunder Lips.
Well, yeah, but like, you just covered it. You didn't get the AWA, so you didn't know that Hulk Hogan was, a top guy in the AWA, feuding with Nick Bockwinkel and Kurt Hennig and all that. So now I got to get Jeremy back, because he took one of my guys a little earlier. He started off strong going, I'm going to steal Great Muta, because I know that's where you're going to go. And I'm going to take one of his favorite guys right now, with paired with his tag team partner, Tully Blanchard. I'm going to take the Brainbusters. And so you can't have Arn Anderson.
All right. That was Spinebuster.
Now, those legitimately are some of the most underrated tag team right there in professional wrestling, the Brainbusters. They have two Hall of Famers. They're great, and people should talk to them about them a lot more, in my opinion.
I hated the name.
Yeah, but they were
yeah. I hated the Brainbusters.
Yeah, but didn't they do a pile driver? What was their finishing move? Wasn't it like a pile driver?
Yeah, they did. I think they used a spike pile driver for a while.
Yeah, Brainbusters, busting their brain.
Well, they were with Bobby the Brain Heenan, so that was
the Weasel.
So those are my two picks: Terry Funk and the Brainbusters.
All right. Well, you know what? You didn't take the tag team I thought you were going to. So I guess I can wait on that for a moment, because I'm looking at another couple of guys here that I really want on my team. Again, I think one of them might be right on the edge of that 89-90. So I hope he'll work out. But the first one I'm going to take is probably one of my top 5 all-time favorite all-around guys, and that's Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig.
Yes, sir.
That is one person that I'm surprised you guys haven't taken earlier in the round.
I'm kind of surprised he's sitting there too, and now that he is, I couldn't pass him up. Just for the simple fact that I would enjoy the man spitting his gum and smacking into the crowd. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and throwing a towel
people in the face, and I loved it. So he threw a basketball. He could swim a lap, and he was fantastic in the ring and on the mic. I absolutely love Mr. Perfect. Again, love to hate him for a long time, but he was great at anything he did in that ring.
I thought with Cole picking the Nature Boy, I thought Mr. Perfect was either going to be the next one or two, at least after that.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with him yet. I have an idea with him on my roster. And the next guy I'm going to go with, someone I think might be 90s. I hope I got this one right and can sneak him in over there. A talent that we lost way too early. Would have loved to continue watching this guy. Brian Pillman.
Oh, for sure.
Brian Pillman is man, he was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Pillman was incredible, and I'm happy to see his son, following his dreams and following in Dad's footsteps. And I will. I'm quite positive Pillman started before 90, and so I will let you sneak him in under the wire there. So.
I appreciate that one.
But also because I'm just looking at some of the other guys you picked, and I'm just like, God, that would be fantastic. So I'm good with Brian Pillman.
Nice.
Oh man, I gotta say this time around, this is so much deeper of a talent pool than it might just be, kind of our bias looking back at old times and nostalgia and whatnot. But it's just there's so many top guys. I really think mostly it's because this was the end of the territory days where all of these guys really truly were main event guys, main event top talents in their territories. And so they got to cut the promos every night. They got to be on TV. They got to main event. They got to work 30 minutes, 45 minutes every single night. And so the talent was just so much deeper. And oh man, I got a couple guys that put little stars next to you. But you know what? I need a tag team for the Brain Busters. You know what? I got to do it because I know it would be the greatest. It would just be the most entertaining because the Brain Busters are superb heels. And so they need some super top white meat baby faces to go along with it. I'm going to go with the Rock and Roll Express.
Nice.
Especially since I've been listening to Arn Anderson's podcast on a weekly basis, and he puts over the Rock and Rolls nonstop. Yeah, Rock and Roll Express, Brainbusters sound like a money combination to me. Oh, and now I got to flip a coin. I'm going to go with quite possibly the best promo of all time, especially as a heel. But even as a baby face, we got the bag over his shoulder with the big snake, which always adds.
It's about time.
Always adds to the show. I'm going Jake the Snake Roberts.
Why you guys haven't picked him like way earlier?
It's so hard.
He was next. He was going to be my next pick.
It's so hard. Like I said, the talent roster here is just so deep, but I mean, if you're looking at drawing money, taking Ricky Steamboat before Jake Roberts seems almost insane too. But I mean, no, you can't go wrong with anybody on either of these lists so far. I don't think they're all top guys, man. It's insane. So Rock and Roll Express and Jake Roberts.
He literally lifted people that he was against, Jake. Their game elevated every time. It doesn't matter who he was with, their game elevated because he was able to talk so quietly, softly to a point it was like ice razor blades coming across your skin when he would talk.
Yeah, his feud with Rick Rude.
Oh, yeah.
Is one of my all-time favorite long-running feuds.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And the DDT, DDT and Steamboat on the concrete, the stuff with Savage is insane to this day. You watch Tuesday in Texas where Jake slaps Miss Elizabeth in the face. Full on smacks her in the face, and just the heat. It's one of those few times where watching something I was on TV where I felt like there legit could be a riot right now in this moment on TV with the rails and the barricades, and it would be, totally believable.
Well, we talked about this though the last episode. Literally, Macho Man had heat with Miss Elizabeth's dad because of that situation. They literally thought that it was real. He could not, basically it was that bad. If you listen to documentaries and people that were around at that time, legitimately, her dad was pissed and they did not talk.
There's some good stories from those podcasts.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I didn't even know Arn Anderson had one.
The Conrad family of podcasts. So it's good because Conrad's involved, and I know you're not a big fan of Conrad himself, but everything he does is golden in my book. So
I just like the guy.
That sounds like another podcast that we could do after we get done with this debate on Conrad. Okay, so far, you guys in this this round or this draft, Cole has Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Nature Boy, Ric Flair, Harley Race, Ricky Steamboat, Dusty Rhodes, Nick Bockwinkel, Terry Funk, the Brainbusters, Rock and Roll Express, and Jake the Snake Roberts. And for Jeremy, we have the Macho Man, the Great Muta, Rowdy Piper, the Warrior, Sting, Rick Rude, the Road Warriors, Demolition, Mr. Perfect, and Brian Pillman.
Your note-taking abilities are fantastic.
I have to step my game up because I can't speak correctly, and you know that. Can't do a segment without screwing up.
That brings us to Jeremy's 2 picks for round 11 and 12.
11 and 12. All right. Yeah, I've been kind of looking at it, and I love tag team wrestling. I always have. And there's a couple of tag teams on here that I wouldn't mind pitting against each other again when they were in their prime. So I think I'm going to do another back-to-back and start with my all-time favorite tag team, which has the wrestler who went on to become really my all-time favorite wrestler. That's Dynamite and Davey Boy, the British Bulldogs. I'm going to take them first, and then right after those two, I'm going to go with an old Jim Cornette favorite from the NWA days. Another Express, the Midnight Express.
Oh, you just stole my next match. I was hoping beyond hope
I did
the
it.
Midnight Express would survive.
How can you have those two on the same team, though? Because, I mean, that's just too much power for you, Cole. So I'm glad that he ended up picking it.
If I had both the Expresses? Yeah, because I was looking. I'm like, oh, man, either way, I'm like, if the Midnights are here, I'm good. Either way, I could pick two. I could go either with the Rockers or the Hart Foundation and be great with the Midnight Express. And now that everyone's gone, I'm kind of...
There was a joke I was going to add into that.
I'm kind of second guessing here and thinking maybe I don't need another tag match. Although it might be sacrilege for me to not pick my favorite wrestler of all the times in his tag team. Boy.
You can't pick Johnny Gargano, so...
yeah. No, I won't go as far as to say he's my favorite of all time. So. I love my brother-in-law. I like his work, but I can't lie. Oh, man. So I think I'll move off of tag teams. I'll punt on that idea because the Midnight were the glue that was that match. And I'm not really interested in any of the other matchups here, to be honest. So I'm going to go with Jerry the King Lawler.
The King.
I mean, no other reason than just, he could get heat anywhere, anytime. He wasn't afraid to push the envelope in promos. If you go back to some of his WWF stuff on TV with Goldust, you're going to go, oh, geez.
Who did he break? Whose jaw did he break?
Paul Heyman's.
Yes,
so, yeah,
legitimately broke his jaw when he punched him.
Yes. So the story behind that was they did all the promoting. They did all the build-up. They redid all the TVs. They did everything. And the payoff was going to be a scaffold match. And the payoff, of course, had to be the bad guy manager getting up on the scaffold and taking a fall. And Heyman went along with everything up until the day they showed up and said, all right, here's the finish. You're getting up. He's like, I'm not going up there. And Heyman refused to go up the scaffold after they did all this build-up. They did all this TV time, and they cut the promo saying that, we're going to throw him off the scaffold. And he refused to do it. And so Lawler punched him in the jaw. The old days, back when you could get away with that kind of thing.
And a lot of the New Day listeners are probably like, yes, he got his jaw broke.
Those sound like unsafe working conditions.
not in
Sounds
the
like
wrestling
ratings.
business. Yeah, right. Yeah, if they'd done it on TV, it'd have been even better.
Yeah.
So, okay. I got to go with one of my all-time favorites. He's a little bit off the radar, but man, everything he did was believable as hell. It's my favorite Hulk Hogan match and my favorite Andre the Giant match were both with the Lariat Stan Hansen.
Stan Hansen.
Also, my favorite Bruno Sammartino match, by the way. I highly recommend people go on the network there and find Stan Hansen versus Bruno Sammartino in the cage, I believe at Shea Stadium. It's an incredible match, and it really shows you how the old days you could get a lot of excitement without a whole lot of stuff. You didn't have to do moves. It's just if you sold and you were intense, you could get that crowd at a fever pitch, and Stan Hansen is as good as anybody at that. So those are my two
Stan
picks.
Hansen last time.
I did.
Yes, I see. I'm like an elephant. I never forget. About as large as a damn fucking elephant. But yeah, that sounded familiar.
Yeah, so
Yes.
Jerry Lawler, Stan Hansen. Yeah, I mean, at some point you got to pick with your heart and you pick your favorites and
Right?
hope that the judges like Stan Hansen too.
I got to say, Cole, I do appreciate what a student of professional wrestling you have become. Is you are recommending your favorite matches of wrestlers who I couldn't even think of a match of theirs I've seen or remember. Sometimes I've never seen. I don't think I've ever sat down and watched an entire Bruno Sammartino match.
Right?
It's just me. You know, I've never gone back and really watched, you know, a lot of older stuff. I just, you know, I started when I was like 7 years old, and I've been watching everything from there since. But no, I think it's cool that you went back and saw a lot of these guys that paved the way and became a student of it. It's really cool, especially since your mom blames me for getting you all hooked on wrestling.
Well, does she blame you, or since she's Candice LeRae's #1 fan in the history of life, is she thanking you at this point?
Yeah.
So-
She never blames me. She just says, you know, you did all this, and that's kind of, you know, this is all on you. So, but I'm proud to have that on me.
Did you follow up with a "You're welcome"?
Yeah, pretty much. All right, so it's my turn again, right? We're back to me.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna pick some guys that I've actually seen wrestle. I got a few of them on my list still. You know, there's one guy, I don't know how big of a draw he ever really was, but he was, I thought, really good on the mic, really great in the ring. Had some wonderful feuds in the 80s over in NWA. I'm going to take Barry Windham.
Ooh.
Oh,
My
wonderful
next
pick. Well, yeah, now see, here is the thing, from this era, you know, especially listening to all the podcasts they listen to, Barry Windham at this point in history was basically considered the top wrestler on the planet in ring. I mean, that was amongst all the boys in the dirt sheets and all that in this era from 85 to 89, he was the guy that everyone talked about. He was the, you know, the Daniel Bryan of his era, you know, where everyone said, oh, he's the greatest guy in the bit, but he got in his own way is really what it sounds like. You know, he didn't know where the gym was, and he liked to do his own thing. But yeah, Barry, you can't go wrong with Barry Windham. You're going to have a hell of a match on your card there.
And on my next pick, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with him yet. But there is a guy that, you know, when I grew up watching wrestling, and like every kid, I think, oh, I want to be wrestled too. I want to wrestle this guy and this guy. This is the one guy, even in my own head, when I was talking to myself, like, I'm never going to wrestle him. I'm afraid to wrestle this guy if I was ever a wrestler, because he just seemed that legitimately tough and badass. And I'm talking about Haku.
Oh, yes.
Haku seemed like he could just kill anybody at any time whenever he wanted. That's how he seemed to me when I was a kid. I feared him, and I feared when my favorites wrestled him. So he did an awesome job at what he was supposed to do.
Well, that fear did not stop once he left the ring. Everybody in the business that's still alive today will say, I will never fuck with Haku. I'll tell you that right now, because there are stories of him gouging guys' eyes out, biting someone's nose off, and everyone swears they are not stories, that this is shit that really happened, that Haku bit a guy's face off in a bar fight, and he wouldn't start anything, but he damn sure was going to finish with it, and nobody fucked with Haku. So the boys will back you up on that 100%. So, oh man, yeah, Haku was. I'm sad to see he was not on my list. That's one of those, like, I really didn't become a fan until the early '90s, and so a lot, like, the guys in the '80s, I didn't necessarily go back and watch everybody, but I do remember fondly Haku tagging with Andre and being the tag champions and all that stuff, and yeah, and Haku still getting in the ring as far as recently as Wrestle Kingdom this year, because his kids are over there and being the tag champs in New Japan, and he got in there and bumped some guys around and did some stuff. So it's good to still see Haku getting around there. So yeah, oh man, that's crazy. I
didn't realize he was that young. He's only a 61. That's pretty damn young still, though. I thought he was a lot older than that.
Well, a lot of those Samoan guys started wrestling when they were 18, 19 years old, right out of high school, and started making a living because that was the family business, basically. So, oh, man. So, okay, since I got Stan Hansen, I'm going to need someone big and bad to get in the ring with him.
There's nobody bigger or badder than Stan Hansen, just in my opinion.
Well, I mean, Andre's bigger, but badder, I don't know. Rip
your head off just like what Haku would.
But I'm looking at a couple guys that could really stand up to him and be believable, and it would be interesting. But I think I'm going to lean towards Dr. Death Steve Williams. Someone that can go in there, and now I've got another big bruiser match. So I got the tag team match. I got some, work rate. Now I've got a big bruising match. Yeah, Stan had Dr. Death Steve Williams. He's legit as they come too. So I'm liking the way this is rounding out for me. But now I'm trying to decide whether I want to take someone that's a crowd favorite or somebody that I like.
Well, you went with your favorite, so I'd go with my opinion. I'd go with the crowd favorite this time.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Got to balance some stuff out. So okay, so then my crowd pleaser, my big baby face, the guy that's going to set the crowd on fire, coming off the top rope with his big Superfly splash. I'm going with Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
That'll do it. We'll get people fired up.
First time I've ever seen anybody go off the top of a ring or a cage.
Or the cage, flying off the cage.
What is the Superfly Jimmy Snuka?
Well, we have that very moment to thank for Mick Foley. That was the day he decided he was going to be a professional wrestler, was when he saw Snuka jump off the cage. So
what round are we on? Where are we now?
We are on your pick in round 15.
Okay, so we're down to, 5 picks?
Yep, 5 left.
All right. Well, I'm looking at what I have going on. And, one of the things I don't really have is something you were just putting together, and that's that big man match. And those were always fun in the 80s. You get some big guys in there to really wail on each other. And I don't know, there's a few big tough guys I like still floating around in there. And I think the first one I'm going to take is going to be Bam Bam Bigelow.
Oh, that one hurts a little bit.
I love big old Bam Bam. When he came in the WWF the first time with his fiery tattoos on his head and did that whole thing about what manager he was going to pick, and he picked some dude named Harvey Whipple something or whatever his name was.
Harvey Whippleman?
No, it wasn't Harvey. Well, it was something even worse, something completely different. I forget what it was. Some guy I never heard of, and we were all supposed to be excited about it, I remember. But yeah, he was just fun to watch, man. I've never seen a big old fat man like that doing cartwheels and jumping off second rope and everything. He was kind of different for that.
Was another guy
era.
that we lost too soon.
Definitely. Now, looking around at someone I might pit him against, I'm not sure. There's another big guy out there that, again, lost too soon. Was always fun to watch. Always one of the top heels, I thought. I'm going to take the Big Boss Man.
Beautiful.
Yeah, he's the boss and the man.
And another Jim Cornette kind of creation there. That it's fun to listen to his podcast when he's talking about old wrestling and how the Big Boss Man came to be. I can't remember who he was feuding with at the time, Jim Cornette, but Mama Cornette decided that James E needed a bodyguard. So that's where we got Big Boss Man introduced to us. And on the first day, he took a bump, and Dusty decided he was going to be a big star and immediately booked himself in an angle to build up to the match with Big Boss Man. And they tore the house down, and good old Ray Traylor didn't make the kind of payoff he was expected, so off to the WWF he went. Oh, it's great. Oh man. Bam Bam hurts a little. He's my favorite big man of all the times. He's really incredible. It's either Bam Bam or Vader for me when I'm talking about big men that I love. And there's one other one on the list here that it fits that bill. He's a big man. He can move. He was athletic for his size, and as big as he was, it was kind of hard, to think he could do what he did. But athletically, for a guy his size, there's no one better than the Giant Earthquake. I'm going to go with Earthquake here.
Yeah, he's on my list too.
Yeah, that one wasn't.
Trenta.
That one wasn't such a heart pick, but at the same time, I need a little bit of international flavor here, and maybe the most over Japanese wrestler in the history of all time is Antonio Inoki, and this would be shortly after his match with Muhammad Ali. But he was still a big top guy. This is after he started his own promotion, was doing his thing, and he was doing great stuff. He put Hulk Hogan on the map internationally. All the stuff he did with Andre. There's not much bigger draw in their country than Antonio Inoki. That's my 17th pick. So number 16 and 17 for me, Earthquake and Antonio Inoki.
All right, so
Really
I'm
good
at what?
picks.
I'm at 17 and 18 now myself.
17 and 18.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I haven't entirely figured out what I'm going to do with this pick as well, but the fact that they're sitting there is almost ridiculous. So I'm just going to go ahead and just take the Hart Foundation right now, and definitely find a place for them on my card.
Right. Well, you just stopped me because I just had the brilliant idea to do something with Bret Hart, the best wrestler in the history of ever. But he's all yours now, unfortunately. And we've done 2 fantasy drafts, and I have had Bret Hart in neither of them. So, for shame, for shame.
That's another reason why I'm surprised you went with, not saying you shouldn't go with Hogan, but surprised that you didn't go with Hart first.
Well, we're talking about the time period too. In 85 through 89, Bret Hart was an underneath tag team guy. They were the tag champs and all that, and they were having great matches, especially with the Bulldogs in that era. And they did some really great work with the Brainbusters. But without the Midnight Express, without that other big heel tag team, there wasn't much I could do with the Hart Foundation. And then I just had a brilliant idea, but I guess we'll have to scrap it. So.
No, other trades?
Oh.
Is there a free agency period or anything? No?
Yeah. No.
All right. So I took the Hart Foundation. This this is another one of those. I believe it comes in just under the wire. It could be a '90s thing. I will let you decide once I make my pick. Cactus Jack.
Cactus Jack definitely counts because he definitely started in this time period. I believe he started in '85, but there's a great story about some of his, he was just a few months into the business, and he got to do some jobber matches up at the WWF, and he went in there to work with the British Bulldogs, and they were talking about it solely before the match, and Cactus goes to Dynamite and says, "Oh man, I really love your clothesline, man. Can you hit me with one of those clotheslines?" And he said, "Sure, kid." And he took his head off and just about knocked him out. And he went, "Whoa, shit." I'm glad we got that clothesline in.
Awesome.
He debuted in '83 of his wrestling career.
Oh yeah, so Cactus has been around for a long time.
Cool. All right, so yeah, Cactus Jack and the Heart Foundation. That's what, 17 and 18.
Yeah, and that is some solid stuff there. So, I mean, we're looking at so many people. I've got, the Red Rooster and, Lanny Poffo and all these great talents on here.
Oh, there's a lot of people still from this era. A lot of people that were big on TV at that time and just fun to watch.
And so, yeah, at this point, I'm going to go with the surprise 18th round draft pick, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
Good one.
I think that's great value in the 18th round right there.
That's another one I'm surprised neither one of you have picked earlier in the.
Well, it's hard because we're not just picking, the best of the best. We're also trying to put a card together, and so it gets interesting, and a guy like Ted DiBiase can fall through the cracks. But I'm glad to have him on my squad. Now I'm looking
some of the guys where I'm going to be leaving on my list. I'm like, really? But like you said, now when you start putting the matches together and the card together in your head with these people, yeah, they start, oh, I love that guy, but where do I stick him now? So,
where do I put him? And now I'm gonna go a little bit off the beaten path here, to a name that's doesn't get a lot of play, a lot of credit, because he never left his territory. Once he settled in, he found a place, and he was a top guy for years and years, and never had to leave and get out of Memphis there. But his lineage is unquestionable at this point. All his sons became, big time entities in the professional wrestling. Brad Armstrong was considered one of the best in-ring workers of all time. Of course, we all know the Road Dogg, Jesse James. We know, his son's longtime referee. I'm going with Bullet Bob Armstrong. Very fiery babyface, could cut a great promo, was great in the ring, and passed down a little something to each of his kids, but none of his kids were the total package like he was. So he's another one of those territory gems that, unless you go out and do the research and watch some stuff, he gets lost in the shuffle. But I promise you, Bullet Bob Armstrong is one of the best ever.
I can honestly say I never saw the man. I knew who he was, but I never saw the man or saw the man wrestle until he did a thing, about 4 or 5 years ago with Impact or TNA?
Yeah, right? Yeah, he was on TNA.
He was like, 70-something out there wrestling?
Yeah, and he was incredible.
Wow. He was in great shape.
Yeah.
Okay, that was impressive. So, yeah, I'll give you that thing. I don't know much about him, but what I saw in his old age was pretty cool. He was still doing it.
All right, that was my 19th pick, so we're going to go to Jeremy's last 2 picks, round number 19 and 20, and I'm going to figure out what the hell I'm going to do.
Oh, gosh. There's just so many names and so many possibilities. I'm only 2 picks left. And, man, I don't know exactly how I want to round this out, but I'm going to start with my second to last pick. Again, going towards that tag team. I'm going to possibly need another one anyway. And Yeah, these
Well,
guys
yeah.
are just
Now remember, you can use two singles in a tag too. That is a possibility. That's something you're allowed to do. So you don't have to pick a tag team, but
I don't have
it
to,
is
but
something
you know what? These were guys that were just fun. They were fun. Everyone enjoyed watching these guys. They were, party as they went to the ring, prayed in the ring, and they were fabulous, I would say. We'll take the Freebirds.
Yes, sir.
How long did it, Jeremy, did it take you to think of the Freebirds? Because last night, somebody that you related to couldn't think of it for 3 minutes.
I was making my list, and I'm like Terry Gordy and Michael Hayes, and then they had Jimmy Garvin, and then they had the other guy. But what the hell is their freaking name?
I get a text, I get a message, a text. Hey, do you remember what Terry Gordy and Michael Hayes group? And I'm like, the Freebirds ? And he's like, damn it! For 30 minutes, I've been sitting here wondering what the hell their name was, and I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, I actually wrote them down. They were 29 on my list. So.
hey, but they made the list.
Hey,
They
29,
just made
30.
the list.
There's a connection there.
All right, so I got one more pick, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Your
Oh,
20th
man,
pick.
okay.
20th
All
pick.
right. This is one of those. I'm like, do I go with my heart? Do I go with a good matchup, biggest star? And it's tough, but I'm gonna go with someone who wasn't the biggest star, but definitely popular for his time. Could have a decent match here and there, but he was just more of an entertainer than anything. And I need somebody with a little extra pop flair on my card, and I'm gonna take Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Brutus the fucking Barber Beefcake.
Yep.
That is a solid way to round it out.
I love the Barber.
And now here's where I painted myself a little bit into a corner here, where I've picked a lot of my favorites, but I have a slight imbalance amongst heels. And so as much as I'd like to pick Paul Orndorff, who's one of my favorites, or a Bob Orton, who's greatly underrated, or a Gino Hernandez, who's a guy who doesn't get a lot of publicity mostly because he died so young. But I have to pick a babyface. I have to have someone to draw against any of these guys. And so since there's a Tito Santana here, a guy that was a big star in the territories who wasn't quite as big a star in the WWF, Kerry Von Erich. I've got a young Ron Simmons. I could go Carlos Colon, but I just need someone who's going to get over with the crowd, who's gonna just, the people are going to be happy to see him. It's going to be a fun match. And later on in his WWF days, it was a little more of a comedy gimmick, and he wasn't in the best of shape. He started eating too much junk food and was dubbed the junk food dog by Dave Meltzer. But fuck Dave Meltzer, I'm going with JYD, the junkyard dog, to round out my list.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Another one of those that the kids and the parents just popped and loved when he came out with his chains, did his little boogie dance, and everyone loved it.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, he was a big star down in Mid-South and in Memphis, and he got a little later on in his days in wrestling and got too much into the drugs and too much into the bad eating and got out of shape, and so he was a shell of himself in the WWF, but he was still wildly over, and the fans loved him. So JYD as your 20th pick is not a bad thing. But let's get into some of the notables. I know I mentioned some of the names. Some guys, do you have any guys you're a little bit surprised didn't make the list there, Jeremy?
That neither one of us picked?
Yes.
Paul Orndorff was on my list as well, like he was on yours. The Honky Tonk Man.
Oh, he wasn't even. You know what? I'm ashamed of myself, but he wasn't on my list.
I was debating near that last pick with Brutus the Barber Beefcake and Honky Tonk Man. I was kind of going back and forth with the two. And just for star power at that time, I know he was terrible pretty much all the time. But Lex Luger, Lex Luger was huge in WCW at that time, you know, and
Yeah.
he was coming up as a big star. And I'm kind of surprised neither one of us took his star power.
I think Luger might be the biggest star, that, you know, the guy who got highest up the card that we didn't take. A couple guys for me, like Mil Mascaris is a little bit of a surprise, but, you know, Mil never had a big run in America. A guy for me that I definitely would have picked here if I needed another, you know, top heel is Eddie Gilbert. He's another one of those guys people should go out of their way to watch if they don't know his. But on the babyface side, another one, you know, a car accident, a major accident ruined his career, but Magnum TA was over. He was going to be the next, you know, Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior guy, had he not had the car wreck. And so, yeah, man, Sergeant Slaughter, another one on the list. You know, there's just, that's what I was saying. I think the talent pool in the 80s was just so much deeper, and I really think the territories played a big part in that. So, all right.
Just pick Rick Martel either. That's one.
Yeah, Rick Martel, Tito Santana, Greg the Hammer Valentine is one for me.
Yeah, he was on mine.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. And he was me and my buddy Vince have been sharing Greg the Hammer Valentine stuff from like the late 70s recently, like stuff with Wahoo where they're just punching the shit out of each other and just brutal, strong matches with the, you know, the Indian death strap, you know, strap match and all the good stuff. And yeah, man, I think it's just a testament to how great the 1980s was for wrestling. The Rockers, not on the list. The Sheep Herders, the Iron Sheik.
Nikolai Volkov.
Yeah, it was a great era for wrestling. And that's why I am glad I'm doing this with you, because it is true. I wouldn't be here talking about wrestling today if not for Jeremy. He was the one who kind of introduced my sister and myself to the world of professional wrestling. So this is a little bit of he's doing me a favor, lending his voice talents and his knowledge of wrestling. So I appreciate it.
I love doing this stuff with you guys anytime, man. You know that.
So what we're going to do right now, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to do a little bit of radio magic. We are going to take a short break. Jeremy and I are going to comb over our rosters, come up with an 8-match wrestling card. So we can, the way it kind of worked out last time is we went match for match, and the judges kind of compared first match, second match, and just to kind of keep a running tally of which match they liked better going through the card towards the end. And at the end, if there was a tie or whatever, then they'd look, you know, well, of course, Justin came up with some bullshit made up qualifier to win his vote because we ended up in a 4-4 tie. But
he's just mad because he almost could have lost after that one. That's the only reason why. Justin was playing smart.
Is it kind of like, so as far as making matches, stipulations, gimmicks, anything goes, that kind of stuff?
Anything you want. Yep. You are the king of your own wrestling promotion, the booker, so to speak. You have the most powerful thing in wrestling, and that is the pencil and eraser. So, yes, you get to do whatever your heart desires on this. 4-ways, 6-man tags, whatever it is that tickles your fancy, you can put together in this 8-match card. And once we do that,
Teddy Long, playa, you could be a Teddy Long.
Tag team match, playa.
You'll be facing The Undertaker, but he's not in this one, so I got a little excited.
All right, so we're gonna take a short break, and we'll be right back with you guys to go through our match cards. Take us out, Charles.
How would you take us out on the radio? This is ProWrestling UnCut, Jeremy. How would you take us out?
Oh, the radio guy.
Yeah, he's the radio guy.
ProWrestling UnCut. Stick around. You're going to hear all the best from our draft. The matches, the card, the judges, coming back right after this on Pro Wrestling. What's it called?
UnCut.
UnCut.
Is it your dream to become a professional wrestling superstar, manager, or referee? Well, you can make that dream a reality by training with Midwest All-Pro Wrestling. Learn from former WWE superstar and NXT coach Eugene Nick Dinsmore. Classes are training right now, so go to MidwestAllPro.com and click on training to enroll today.
KotaiRadioNetWK is brought to you by Midwest All-Pro Wrestling. Go to MidwestAllProWrestling.com and get tickets today. Remedy Brewing Company. It's the cure for what ails you. Jekyll and Hyde Park. Jekyll and Hyde Barbecue makes barbecue so good, it'll put a smile on your face. And Kotai Radio Network is powered by KBAC.Rock. Rock radio the way rock radio should be. Go to KBACRadio.com and listen today.